In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Twisted Tea and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Better Brands Incorporated. Know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Twisted Tea's original hard iced tea in hand. It's important to remember drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and your friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Twisted Tea salutes all sober skippers who take the pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com. Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors. This week we are once again in the Trilogy Outdoors podcast studio. Soon to be new and improved there, Stephen. I hear some, maybe, is that some of the new decorators coming to look at plans for the new studio?
I hope not. I mean, the studio does need to be enlarged. I'll give you that. But the rest of the home, I wish she would just leave it alone.
Hey, listen, here's the deal. We didn't have plans of doing all the shows here. I know that originally.
I don't mind it. I mean,
I know you don't. You don't have to leave.
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, I don't have to leave. It's not far from your house. We get to lock ourselves in here, and kids can't really bother us with yelling and hollering and screaming, and the wives can't really bother us with yelling and hollering and screaming. Yep. So it's not a bad place. We get to look at guns and play with guns and look at elk and trophies. And
you're sitting here with a handgun in front of you we've been discussing, and I showed you the handgun that I won recently in a little raffle drawing or whatever you want to call it.
We can kick back with our feet up and talk about fossils and shark's teeth and guns and shooting stuff.
Yep.
And not have any problems. English.
By the way, just so you know, your two interior decorators are great friends of mine. I'm getting ready to leave you in here with Rick to talk so I can go say hey to them. But, yeah.
Go ahead. We can take care of it.
Hey, Rick. Who's joining us on the line, Stephen? We got a cool guest on the podcast studio phone line today.
We do. We have my buddy, Rick Austin, Citadel graduate. Graduated from the Citadel with me. He, he likes to say that he carried me through, but we all know that's a lie. He did not carry me through. But he has become a great friend over the years, and is an adult, what he would describe as an adult-onset hunter. Rick, are you there?
I am. And Stephen, to refute your point, anybody that actually knows us that went through either the Citadel undergrad or graduate college would absolutely agree with me that I carried you through graduate school. Yeah. And one would even say undergrad as well.
I don't know about that. But regardless of your false stories, your fake stories, fake news here on Trilogy Outdoors Podcast, we're going to have you join us and tell us a little bit about adult-onset hunting. And the reason why I asked you to come on today is because you wrote a pretty popular article on in the magazine. If you don't know, we have a magazine, Trilogy Outdoors Magazine, formerly Welcome Outdoors. And it's online, TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. It's also on the shelves in a lot of places, Bass Pro Shops, a lot of local tackle shops up and down the coast. and it's very popular. We've got some fantastic writers.
We do.
And Rick was one of our writers this past month in the, is this the December issue?
This December issue, this would be our
Holy moly.
This would be our 10th issue since taking over.
It's just hard to believe. I mean, I know Christmas is right around the corner, but it's just hard to believe that it's our December issue. So 10th issue so far of the Trilogy Outdoors Magazine, and Rick wrote an article called Adult-Onset Hunting, and one of the many, many topics of conversations that we've had since that article was written was how popular that is.
Yep.
And, you know, how it really touched a nerve with a lot of our readers. English, you were just talking about a reader a little while ago.
Nick Lopes,
Okay.
a listener too, listener to the podcast. But
I wasn't going to call his name. But
no, you can call him out. Yeah, he said the same thing. He said he grew up and, never had the opportunity to do much hunting. And then since retirement or leaving a previous job that he had for 21 years and going on to another business, he's gotten the opportunity. And through me, through Lucas, friends of ours, we've been able to get him out and start him. And now he's addicted. I mean, he's leaving. I've got to drop him off a cooler as soon as we get done. And he did say that he wanted to join us in 2 weeks. He's on his way to Nebraska to go deer hunting.
All right, so Nick, this is a way aside from where we are, but Nick and I know each other from, gosh, it's got to be 25 years ago or so.
Right.
Both of us worked at Wakawachi Marina
Okay.
as deck hands at Wakawachi Marina. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but he and I were both there at the same time. You know, there was a group of us that were deckhands, and I think that was after I was fired from digging graves and after I had caught Giardia at my family's hog farm. And I was looking for an alternative and decided to work for Wakawachi Marina, and Nick and I met each other there maybe 25 years ago. So anyway, known him for a long time, but he you're right. I mean, even at the time, I think he drove a Mustang at the time. And to me, that was just like, that was foreign, right? Everybody in my circle drove trucks.
Sounds about like him.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a Mustang. It was like a, souped-up Mustang.
Oh, yeah. He likes souped-up cars.
Right. It was like a souped-up Mustang. And everybody in my circle drove trucks and hunted and fished, and he was never that guy back then.
Nope.
But people like you came along and showed him a different way, and and Rick really captured that pretty well in this article. I was very proud of him and proud of the article, and he touched a lot of people.
He did. And, Rick, you were man, listen, I don't know how quick you threw that thing together, but I'm just going to put you on the spot, and I'm just going to say that you probably had somewhere in the realm of 24 to 48 hours notice, if that much, and threw together probably one of our best articles that we've had in a while. And I'm just going to give you the formal invite that, every couple months, if you come up with some good thought in your mind that you want to share with everybody, write it down and email it to me.
Well, I appreciate that, English, but I'll go ahead and say that I'm probably running on empty. I think I have two good articles, the Osceola hunt and then this one in me. But, if I can make it happen, I'll definitely make it happen, help you all out any way, shape I can.
Well, how about I teach you how to catch a redfish here in the next 30 days, and then you can write an article on my first redfish.
Yeah, that would be a lie. That would be a lie. And as you adequately said, Trilogy Outdoors is not fake news. So we don't want to make sure we perpetrate that lie. So.
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you, the other thing is we need to go ahead and put our calendars together for March and figure out our trip to Florida again. Or was it February? It was February we went, right?
No, we went in March.
March, yeah. We'll go ahead and get that together, and that way you can have another turkey to write about. Maybe this time it'll be Stevens.
Yeah, and maybe this time
I won't get sick.
Finally catch it on film.
Exactly.
If we're lucky.
But it's interesting that you bring up about adult onset hunting. Like I said in the article, I did not grow up in South Carolina. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia. There's not a lot of hunting opportunities in Atlanta. And so the only thing that outdoorsy inside of Atlanta.
Hang on.
Was
Did you drive a Mustang?
I did not drive a Mustang. No.
What did you drive?
I drove a Toyota Camry.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say a Toyota Tacoma, but okay.
All right, carry on. We know who you are.
Funny side story about that. I'm sure I'll catch a little bit for this, but my parents did help me buy a car, and my dad was looking at a Tacoma for me, but he is very astute and does the Consumer Reports things, and he found out that they had a high rollover ratio, and he thought, probably a good thought to himself, that I do not want to put my 16-year-old son in something that he's probably going to kill himself with. So instead, I got the family Camry.
So what are you driving your kids around in nowadays?
I'm driving my kids around in a Tacoma.
Oh,
that's right. That's right.
Ouch.
Anyway,
Dad of the year there.
On topic. Mm-hmm. Getting back on topic. So, the Chattahoochee River runs right through the middle of Atlanta. And, my father and my brother are big fishermen, not hunters at all, and so quite frankly, I never had the opportunity. Hunting was not exposed to me, even though I liked it, saw it on Saturday morning, with the fishing shows and hunting shows. I saw it, and it was something that interested me. And my father, being prior service, had taught me how to shoot. So obviously handguns, rifles, things of that nature were interests of me. I just didn't have a place to go. And honestly, that all changed when I went to the Citadel and was put around a lot of folks that came from, let's just call it rural South Carolina, where hunting is a tradition. It's something that their grandfather did. It's something that their father did, their uncles, their brothers, and it was almost second nature. And, Stephen, you can probably weigh in on this. I mean, you were born into hunting, fishing, outdoors, on the water, correct?
Yep.
And so it's something that was just, it was second nature. And that wasn't to me. Fishing was second nature, whether it was red fishing, going down to Florida offshore, trout fishing in the rivers. And so, our buddy Will, I started finding out more and more people that could and did hunt. And our buddy Will is actually the one that I have to give credit to. He was the first one that took me hunting and showed me the ropes. And he swears he called a turkey into my lap. I never saw the thing, but if you hear him tell the story, he called that turkey right in my lap, and I just didn't pull the trigger on it. I dispute that, like I dispute other stories that something like that scenario played out. Stephen, I give you credit because, we started talking about hunting in graduate school, and you were kind enough to offer and to actually go through and fulfill taking me hunting. And I'll never forget our turkey success story about, I think we were on a piece of hunting property. I think it was Midwest Vaco land, if I remember correctly. But I remember you took me up there, and we went out the night before. We scouted, we roosted a bird, and we came back that next morning. We walked in. We walked over a little footbridge, I remember, over a little piece of swampy land, and there was an alligator in it that we spooked off, and we got to a T intersection. There were little pines that we cut down and we set up. And then, just as it started getting light, the bird started hammering. And, obviously, I'd like to say the bird that I shot for my first turkey was the big boss Tom that came in, but realistically, he was just a little 2-year-old. But, God love 2-year-olds because they make the world go round. And, still to this day, I remember like it was yesterday, watching him come down the road to our decoy setup, and just my heart pounding out of my chest and seeing it, and, having you say, all right, take off safety. And then you telling me to shoot him. And then you telling me, Rick, what are you doing? Shoot him. Rick, shoot him in the freaking face right now. Of course, you didn't use that word, and you'll dispute that, but pulling the trigger, and, that was, a little bit of it. But walking up to that turkey and just looking down at this beautiful creature that we're going to eat, show me how to do all these things. And the flood of just realizing that I had just learned how to be self-sufficient, being out in God's country, seeing what was created, and then now having this animal that we were going to eat. I'll tell you, man, right then and there, I was hooked. It was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And, those that don't experience it, they're missing out. And I don't care if you've grown up doing hunting or you've never gone hunting a day in your life. You should experience it, because it will be one of those things that changes your life.
So it's funny you said that. You mentioned that the bird, so y'all called the bird off the roost and he came down the road to you.
Yep.
That same identical situation for me with my very first bird. The joy of mine was that I did have a cameraman filming it, and we made a show out of it. But I had two birds coming down the road, and I was like you. I didn't know what point in time my buddy, the guide, wanted me to shoot. The bird came down the road, went to the decoy, then went in the woods across the road, then came back out, and I felt was too far away. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, shoot. He went full strut at the decoy, and I still felt like it was a long way away. I pulled the trigger, and that bird just dropped straight there, did a little bit of kicking and everything else. But I'm going to tell you, I was hooked. The minute that happened. And the craziness is that in another 30 minutes from that time, we filmed me killing my second bird ever. We were walking back to the truck, and there was 3 toms right near my truck. So we went back into the woods 100 yards, and he called one of the toms off of the truck, and the bird came right to us, and we got that one. So I killed that one at like 20 yards, and he was going to beat me up. But since then, it's total addiction. I love turkey hunting. There's no doubt, not even fishing compares to turkey hunting.
There's something about turkey hunting. I think that it's a great thing to start new hunters with. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, I if you ask me today, what's your favorite? Rick always asks me, what's your favorite? What's your favorite? What's your favorite? And I like to prod him a little bit, and I usually say elk in the bugle, okay, which is, it's right up. If it's not my favorite thing, it's right up at the top.
I don't know how it couldn't be, but okay.
Right up at the top, right? But turkey hunting is right up at the top too. And I think the reason for that is, number one, you're interacting with the animal, right?
Yep.
Same thing with elk. You're interacting with the animal. Number two, it's not just a sitting game. You can, but it's not just a sitting game. So you can keep the attention of a young one or a person new to hunting. Number three, if it's going to be the first thing that somebody kills, that can be a challenging or an emotional or even a difficult thing to do for them. And, those of us that do it all the time, we don't give it a whole lot of thought, but somebody that does it for the first time, I think it's helpful, honestly, that it doesn't have a face. As weird as that sounds, there are a lot of people that have tried to figure out why shooting a turkey is not hard to do, compared to shooting Bambi.
Right.
And I think the answer to that is because it doesn't have a face, right? It really doesn't. It's got a beak and 2 eyes, but it doesn't have a nose, it doesn't have a face, a mammal face. And so it doesn't come with the same emotional attachment that Bambi does. And so it's a great thing for a child to start shooting. Shooting. It's a great thing for a new adult hunter to start shooting. Turkey hunting is, in my opinion, the perfect thing to start a new hunter on. And
yeah, I would agree with you, Stephen. And to that end, especially around the whole adult new hunter, I guess from your perspective, we're going to bounce around a little bit, but as somebody growing up, how do you feel about when maybe we'll go back, if you remember this far, what's your thoughts when you get asked by somebody like me, 20-something years ago. Hey, man, never been hunting a day in my life. Heard you were talking hunting. Would you take me hunting? You know, what's your thoughts on that as somebody that has grown up doing it? You know, how do you approach it? How do you weed through the people that are just, you know, the brother-in-laws, not your brother-in-law, because David's great and likes hunting, but, you know, I hear stories about brother-in-laws always getting around the Thanksgiving Day table and asking somebody, oh yeah, I'd love to go hunting. And, you know, they're not really into it. How do you weed through the people that are, because you do take a lot of people and you get asked by a lot of people to have you take them hunting, but how do you weed through that? And how do you try to go about making sure that you are helping further the sport of hunting?
I can answer that without even, the slightest bit of thought. And it's unfortunate that I can answer it without the slightest bit of thought, because I've taken this person before. I've taken this person multiple times, and I will never do it again. This is the person that wants to go on a whim.
Yep.
And kills the turkey, the deer, whatever it is,
Yep.
and doesn't give it another thought, never needs to go again. He's checked that box, and he's done with it. And it's like, it's like, I wish I could give you a great description.
It's no respect to the sport, but keep going. I think it's disrespect to the sport, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like loaning him your wife for the night.
Yep.
What have I given you? I've given you the keys to the kingdom here, something that I love dearly.
Yep.
I've shown you the ropes, and it's like, oh, thanks. See you later. Have a nice day. I'm not coming back. That's different. That can be distinguished from the person that really, is maybe a little reluctant to do it, but does it anyway, and just doesn't like it, appreciates you taking them. I mean, there's a difference, right? I'm talking about the person that walks into it confident, but just wants to check the box. Check that box and moves on with life. There's just something irritating, like it feels cheap, like I've been prostituted.
Yep.
And I don't know how to describe it any better than that.
I want to take the person that is going to call me the next day and say, all right, listen, I've got a chance to go over to such and such's property to go. Now, you were mentioning when we put these decoys out, like you tried to keep the Jake over here. You wanted the hen close to him. You kept that strut Tom over here. Like, why did we do that? Like, why? That's going to ask me questions about it. That wants to know that paid attention, that honestly wants to get out there and do it themselves again.
Yeah.
You likened it best about loaning somebody your wife. I mean, that's exactly what it's like.
That's what it feels like almost, like, why would I do that? Why would I ever spend my time and effort to show you something when you're just going to be so blasé about it? And I've taken quite a few of those guys over the years, and every time I get in the truck, I close the door, I think about the animal that was killed, and I feel almost sick. It's just like, ugh, why did I do that for that guy? And then there's the total opposite of that. There's like, you get back in the truck and you're like, holy crap, I've done something amazing for this person today. They're going to run with this for the rest of their life. There's no way they walk away from this experience not telling their grandkids about it one day. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps you going. That's the kind of stuff that keeps you looking for people to further engage and further take and really to break your back. I mean, you and I have both been guides, right?
Yep.
And when you're a guide, unless you've been a guide, it's hard to understand, but you really want to break your back to show your clients a good time, okay?
Yep.
Whatever it is, whether it's, turkey hunting, elk hunting, fishing, it doesn't matter what it is. When the weather's, especially when you're a fisherman, if the weather's bad, you feel personally, it's like you've been personally offended.
Yep.
Right? It hurts your heart that you can't do something better for that client. Okay? It's the same exact way when you're taking somebody that's trying to learn. right? You want to show them the best possible experience you can show them. And when things go wrong, it sort of hurts, right? Take it personally.
Well, 2 seasons ago, turkey seasons that is, backing up, you had reached out to me prior to turkey season and said, hey, I've got a couple guys that I'm going to be taking throughout turkey season. Do you think you can join me and bring your camera? I was reluctant to ask, could I bring my gun too? But anyway, I brought my camera, which I know I'll never miss with that one. And we sat with a hero, a true hero.
Oh, yeah.
An Army Ranger. Yeah. We sat with him for 4.5 hours watching over nearly 50 birds. And then finally we snuck out, we backed out, we went and got in the truck, and we drove around and looked at the beauty of the area where we were, showed the ducks and everything else. And then as we're driving down this road, you said, there they are right there. And you said, out of his mouth, Rick, and you've heard it before, he said, we're going to kill those birds. He said, those birds are going to die. They don't know it yet. And literally we drove another 250 yards, got out the truck. I grabbed the camera, and poor guy, he wasn't disabled. He had been injured, but not disabled. Yeah. I mean, Steven takes off, and he's not slow, Rick. You know that. And he's running behind him, and I'm coming, and Steven's like, all right, stay right behind me. And, obviously he coaxes these birds. They come right to him, and it's a shot of a lifetime. We'll just leave it at that. Shot of a lifetime. Yeah. And Steven and I drove home that day from there, and we're nonstop talking about this. I wonder if he truly realizes what he just pulled off. Yeah. Like, I wonder if it means as much to him as it did for us to see, because we were both celebrating.
Yeah.
We were both celebrating, but those are the ultimate scenarios when something like that happens.
You mentioned something that's interesting. There's like a gut feeling when all those things sort of come together, and it's the same way with everything you hunt or fish, really. Like you see all the elements come together, all the stars align, right?
Yep.
And you say, it's about to happen, boys. I mean, it is about to happen, right? And when all those stars align, it happens every so often. I mean, really, it's a unique, amazing experience that not a lot of first-time hunters ever get to experience, and not a lot of really veteran hunters get to experience. I mean, it just so happens every so often. And bam, there he is, right in the midst of it, and I could tell that it was coming, right? I could see that it was coming. When you find that bird, what was the old phrase Rick, I used to say it, you probably heard me say it, you got to be a 2 at 10 and a 10 at 2, right?
Yep.
There you go. You got to be a 2 at 10 and a 10 at 2. You find those birds mid-morning, and they're on the hunt. There's multiple gobblers on the hunt in the middle of the season looking for hens in a vulnerable place, that has cover, that you can have cover to get to them, and all it's going to take is a cluck or a purr or a soft yelp, and it's over, right? And it's just such an amazing experience to be in the midst of that and to bring a first-time guy. And if you don't appreciate it, right, if you don't appreciate it when all the stars align, it's time to quit.
No, there's no doubt.
Right. I mean, it's just such an amazing thing, and I've been privileged really to be there for the first time for a lot of people, and I hope I never stop.
You created an addict out of Rick, and I'll tell you, I just could tell from dinner and hanging out down in Florida how pumped he gets about hunting, how pumped you get about turkey hunting in particular. I know you love deer hunting as well, and obviously all the Western stuff that y'all go and target. But turkey hunting would I feel safe saying, Rick, that that's about your favorite, or am I wrong?
No, turkey hunting is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
With elk nipping at its heels, and then obviously from there, duck, dove, deer, are still up there. I enjoy doing it, but your turkey is number one, and I would say it'd be hard pressed. Even if I do get an elk one of these days that Steven promised he'll help me try to get to, it's still going to be there because it's like a first love. That's what I fell in love with hunting on, and that's just something that's indelibly imprinted in my mind.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, going back to what you said, Stephen, about the people that just do it as a checkbox. And this is a whole nother topic that y'all can discuss later on. But unfortunately, there are people that do it just for the gram and just for social media. And unfortunately, social media and technology in general, it's a double-edged sword, especially for an adult onset hunter, because you see, especially in social media, you see all of this success. You get conditioned to see all these deer dropping, the turkey, elk, mule deer, ducks, whatever you want. And you think, oh, this is going to be easy. And it's not. And quite frankly, you know, it sets unrealistic expectations, and people don't understand that there's a lot of work. These animals live in the wild 24/7, 365. And unless you're hunting an apex predator, they're on alert because something's trying to eat them. And so in my mind, it doesn't help the situation. But then on that other edge of it, you have so many more resources nowadays as an adult onset hunter than, I did 20 years ago. And I still think the baseline of getting into hunting as an adult comes down to, you need to align yourself with somebody that is, it may be taboo to say, but you need to align yourself with a killer. And by doing that, you're going to learn and try to speed up that learning curve if you really want to get into hunting. And I think that's the number one thing. And again, I think y'all have heard me say it before. It pains me to give Stephen so much credit, but to his credit, Stephen is a killer. He knows how to get the job done and put animals in the dirt. And if you have that as somebody getting into sport of hunting, one, you're going to see animals, which, just like the old adage, especially around fishing, kidding a kid in. Hey, numbers is the game. Number of fish that they can catch, can see, it's visual at that point. It's the same thing with hunting. If you are actively out there seeing animals and maybe not being able to pull the trigger, it helps your confidence that, hey, I'm with somebody that is teaching me the right way, as opposed to just going out, sitting over corn, and never seeing anything, and not going there. So that's honestly being able to have somebody that you can rely on to teach you and to ask questions to about, hey, why did you do this? And granted, they may not have all the answers, or quite frankly, Stephen knows this very well. I ask him a ton of questions about, hey, why do you think this turkey did this? Why did you think the elk did that? And, sometimes you also got to realize when you're learning that, Stephen, what's your famous line? You can't outthink
someone that doesn't think.
That's right.
Sometimes I geek out on trying to consume as much knowledge about whatever animal I'm hunting. But at the end of the day, these animals live out there 24/7, 365. And sometimes they're going to do something that you didn't think that they're going to do. And being able to understand that and not get discouraged, I think also goes a long way on your own maturation of hunting.
Yeah. And it is, maybe it is a simplification of hunting, but there's a lot to be said for trying not to outthink something that doesn't think, right? When I say they don't think, I don't mean to insult the animal, but the truth is, a turkey doesn't think about you. A turkey doesn't think about geometry or complicated algebra, right? A turkey, if he thinks about eating, he thinks about sex, and escaping a coyote, maybe.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That's about the three things that a turkey thinks: eating, sex, escaping a predator.
The closest I can get to turkey, if you want to think like a turkey, just think back, if you were like me and wild in college, just think back to a late night at 1 a.m. and you were at the bar with 10 guys and 40 women, and just the way that scenario went. Yeah. Take that and flip it into turkey hunting, and that's the mentality you need, because it is about the same way. But I tell you, turkey hunting is just another one of those that, I think you can think too much into it, without a doubt.
Yep.
And I've done it before. And then it also, you can't just go out there and go. Like, you really do have to, take some time to plan out your hunt and pattern where the birds are going to be. Stephen, I've been sending pictures, and Rick, I've sent you some of the birds that we're seeing right now. We're seeing these big toms on my game camera. And Stephen said, well, that's the last place you want to hunt come the spring. So, that's something I'm going to look into.
Turkey hunting, when we're focusing a lot on turkey hunting, which is fine with me. But when you overthink turkey hunting, you have a tendency to move too much.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the beast. Is if you are in a turkey prone area where it has a lot of turkeys, and I understand different parts of the season, the gobble's a little hotter than it is in other parts of the season. But if you're in an area, generally in an area that has a good turkey population, and you're in turkey season, and you're calling, and it's sometime between daylight and noon, okay, there's a good chance if you sat still long enough and you called about every 15 minutes, not too much, not too little, a turkey's going to walk past you at some point in time. If you've seen a turkey walk past that area where you're sitting and you don't make a sound, there's a good chance that in that 3 or 4 hour stretch, a turkey is going to walk past you. But somewhere in the turkey hunter's mind, he says, there's a better way to do this. I got to get up and move. There's a better way to do this. And inevitably what happens when you get up and move?
You get busted.
You bump into them.
Yep.
Right, because they're moving probably towards you. So, overthinking a turkey can inevitably lead to failure. If I had guidance for a young or an adult onset turkey hunter is don't overthink turkey hunting.
No.
Don't overthink it.
No, don't. And I'll say this much. When I first started, again, I was blessed. First 2 hunts I went on, one was at the Lynch's track in Conway. Do you know that area?
I know it, yeah.
That was where I harvested my first 2 birds. 2 days later, I filmed a show at Backwoods Quail Club with John Michael Morris, who is an incredible – I don't even want to try to tell the numbers of turkeys that he's responsible for harvesting every year during turkey season. But I was blessed. And then I tried to take what I learned from them, and I got into it. And then, 2.5 weeks into the season, all of a sudden I find this remote strut tom that would remotely, go into strut and spin around and everything. And I was like, oh, my God, I got to have one of these. I'm telling you that the last week of the season, after getting busted or scaring off 4 birds that would have been my first birds that I ever called in by myself, Jay Bache was with me. We were driving down 17 coming back from Lake City, and I stopped in Indiantown, and unfortunately I littered, but I grabbed that decoy out the back of the truck, pulled it out the back, and threw it in the middle of the highway, and we kept going. $249 decoy. It had, Jay even said it, dude, leave the remote alone.
Yeah. And
I kept doing it. The birds would get out there, and they would just not come to the decoys, and I would have to press the button to make them strut.
That's hilarious.
And they would go the other way.
Yeah. Well, late in the season, it's not a good idea.
No.
So,
highly effective early in the season.
Early, yeah.
Yeah. Highly effective
So,
early.
Stephen, Captain, let me ask you this. So, obviously, I think, especially in the South, and that's a generalization, but, for other people that aren't maybe in the South where hunting is as prolific, I think we've discussed the biggest thing you can do and the thing that's going to cut your learning curve down quite significantly is finding a hunting mentor. But I've been to parties, quite frankly, in which I've heard people say, I don't know anybody that hunts, but I'm interested in getting into hunting. That's where I wrote about, and where I was talking about earlier in my reference to technology, that there's so much on the internet these days with Safari Club International, Dallas Safari Club, Turkeys for Tomorrow, Delta Waterfall, all of these clubs, organizations that have banquets, that have events that you could go to. If you don't know anybody that hunts, if you're trying to be that trailblazer from your group, what are your thoughts and opinions on if there is somebody that wants to get into the outdoors, especially hunting, that they don't run with hunters? What's the best way, in your opinion, for them to get hooked up with maybe like-minded people, or put them in a position where they might meet somebody that could potentially become a hunting mentor to them and possibly take them hunting?
You go first.
Yeah, clubs are a great way. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out if there's an NWTF banquet, or QDMA is a good organization as well. Out west, there's a number, RMEF. Turkeys for Tomorrow is a great new organization.
Quail Forever.
Quail Forever's come on. I would just go to their banquet. I mean, other than the fact that there's good music, there's good food, there's stuff to win in raffles. I mean, even if you didn't hunt, you're going to enjoy a banquet, right? And so, take some friends, go to a banquet, have a good time, meet some people. But here's a word of advice from me. Rick used the word killer. Find yourself a killer. I think that's true, but let me caveat that a little bit. You need to find yourself an old soul, okay? And that doesn't, you don't have to, I don't necessarily mean an old guy. Old guys are great if you can find one that, has the time and the inclination to take you. But an old soul in the hunting world to me means, or fishing world, to me means somebody that has been there, done that, killed them, but doesn't have to do it now.
Right.
You don't want somebody that has a bloodlust that's absolutely out there laying deer after deer after deer after deer after deer after turkey after turkey after turkey down. You don't want that. You want somebody that has been there and done that, understands it, but is selective, and has an eye for watching wildlife and understanding what they're doing, and has an appreciation for watching the wildlife more so than killing the wildlife. And when you find that guy, attach your wagon to him or her. Okay, that's the guy you want. If you're talking about, if Rick is not defining killer by a guy that has, that shoots $30 a year. That's not what he's saying. But a guy that knows,
that figures out how to kill the one that he's concentrating on.
Yeah, right. That knows the animal better than anybody else, better than most people, that watches them, that understands them, and that can choose and be very selective and efficient. That's the right guy or gal who you want to attach your. I mean, there are so many I've met at some of these banquets. People like to introduce themselves and walk up and beat their chest and say, "Oh, I killed 78 turkeys last year." Thanks, but I don't. That's not good, right? I mean, it's like I don't appreciate that. I get it. Every hunter goes through stages where you feel like you need to put numbers on the map. But to me, I'm beyond putting numbers on the map. I'm into the experience. I'm into the why of hunting now, so more so than the what. I'm into the why and the how, and the more experiential side of hunting, as opposed to putting numbers on a map. Or checking marks on a book, or whatever your, marks in your belt, however you keep track of the number of animals. I got plenty of animals in the book. I mean, you English, you can look around the room and see them, right?
Yep, I see them.
Right, but I don't have a bloodlust anymore. I'm not mad at them. I used to be mad at them. I'm not mad at them today. And I don't think, it's good to learn that habit of being mad at them. You want to learn the habit of having respect for them, and really trying to produce a situation where people around you want to ask you, like, what's different about you, right? You don't seem like the typical redneck, right? I mean, that's what people equate with hunting nowadays.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Right,
yep.
You're right. The typical hunter is a redneck, and you're just out there to kill Bambi. What's different about you? I mean, why is it that you know that whatever, a turkey does this or an elk does that? Or why do you think that the fish migrate that way? I mean, that's a weird thing to say for a redneck that just wants to kill. Well, I'm a little different. I'm a little different. I study them. I think about them. You know, all day long, every day, I think about elk movement. And, you know, whether or not that I should be hunting in the full moon this year or I should be hunting in a half moon this year, or whether or not the tide on the East Coast actually affects an elk population on the West Coast. I think about the weirdest and most random stuff you can imagine, you know, but I think about it because it's fun to me.
Yep.
Those are the kind of people you need to attach yourself to.
There's no doubt about it, and I think there are people that you can meet, and I know what Rick was getting at is trying to. I mean, the same reason he wrote the article was trying to inspire somebody to do the same thing he did, and I think without a doubt, like the fishing clubs, the hunting clubs, different interest groups like that are great, and to a degree, and I've seen it happen before. And I've seen success stories from it. I've also heard the other side of it. But to a degree, if you're a good interviewer yourself or a qualifier of people, social media can be really good too. You can actually meet people in interest groups. South Carolina deer hunters, South Carolina hunters, SC duck hunters. All great groups, and if you take the 80% of garbage and just do exactly, delete it, overlook it, whatever, and take the 20% that is good that comes from it, you can meet people through there that will help educate you. I've made friends through it. I've made great friends. I mean, unfortunately, I already hunt and do have the opportunity, but I've had invites come because of people I've met there. I've been down to Remini twice with people that I've met in SC duck hunters.
What's David Strickland's group?
David Strickland that we had on the show?
Yeah, what's David Strickland's group?
Oh, gosh, I can't remember.
Mossy Oak?
No. Conservation, what's the name of that? Carolina Wildlife Syndicate.
Yep, the Wildlife Syndicate. Another great group. 7,000
members in the Wildlife Syndicate.
Yep.
Right, and they all are conservation-minded hunters. You know that. I mean,
most of them on land.
Yeah, right. I mean, so anyway, Inglis's point is well taken. I mean, social media can be used for good. I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
We all know that.
But it can be used for good. There's a good side to it if you're not being tracked by the Chinese in the process.
I would not get on TikTok. I am not a fan of TikTok. Do not put TikTok on your phone. Do not send me a TikTok. Do not think that I'm going to watch your TikTok videos. I am not on TikTok, and nor will I ever be on TikTok. So
ditto. I mean, great day. I mean, have y'all heard?
Yes.
What the heck is going on with TikTok and people? I mean, I guess as kids, I don't know.
It is. Sure, it is. It is. I've taken it off of both my kids' electronics devices, which one of them my nephew downloaded on Russ's device.
Yeah.
I didn't. We didn't know it was on there.
Yeah.
But the videos that they have access to on there are, I mean, things that you and I would flip across, not even watch.
Yeah, I mean, the Communist Party of China has access to everything.
Yep.
Everything, and people are willingly putting it on their devices.
Exactly.
It's
Don't do it.
Blows my mind.
Don't do it. And I'll tell you, DNR, I know we do have a lot of DNR officers that listen to us. Some just to hear negative things, and some because they truly enjoy the show. But I know we have some listen. But that new app that DNR's put out, I mean, it's awesome. Let's get outdoors, or let's go outdoors. It would be great for them to put an option in there for like buddy up, like how to meet somebody. Like I don't know, that would be cool if they could figure out a way through the app for you to find somebody in your area that may be hunting. Now then you got to be the Grim Reaper here and say, oh my gosh, dude, you're going to be setting up some bad meeting between individuals that are complete opposites, whatever. But
I don't think so. I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's sort of like. If I was going to rob a house, would I rob the house that I knew the guy was sleeping with a gun? And the answer is no.
No.
right? I mean, not knowingly. I would not knowingly rob a house knowing that there's a killer sleeping in the bed.
How about the 5 guys that went into Georgia last week? Wasn't it 5 guys that went into the house in Georgia and only, 3 came out or 2?
Yeah, I mean, so same thing. I don't think if I had malintent, I would be looking for a hunters group to join, for a duck hunt at 4:30 in the morning. Because I mean, you show up planning to rob a couple guys that have guns in their pockets. I don't think that's a great idea. So yeah, anyway, I don't think.
Quite frankly, English, I think that's an awesome idea because that's what I do when I go out west. Well, this last year when we went out west to Idaho and Washington, I called their DOW and said, listen, I'm an out-of-state hunter. Is there any, do you have any leads on potential private property that, they may allow us to go turkey hunting on? I think that's a great idea. And their app is great, by the way.
Yes.
I do enjoy it. But I think that's a great idea if a new hunter that, whether or not they have access to somebody, and thank you, Stephen, for quantifying. That's exactly what I mean. I didn't mean just somebody that goes out there and slaughters the animals. I mean somebody that knows the animals and is successful consistently. But that's a great idea to have DNR, DOW, call them up, say, listen, I'm new into hunting, or, I'm trying to get there. Is there somebody that you would recommend that might be able to help teach me and show me the ropes? It's a great idea.
I think
go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Going back to something, Stephen, that you said, we talked about you can't outthink a animal that doesn't think. The other thing that I thought about that we have experienced is, as a new hunter, sometimes you get put into situations in which the shot is not picture perfect. It's not the broadside shot. It's not the turkey has his head standing straight up and is still. I think it's something to be noted that you've noted on your mule deer podcast is that, we're not advocating for unethical shots. You need to practice. But very rarely in the hunting woods do we have that picture perfect shot. And, you need to have practiced enough that you can take that offhand shot, or you can take that quartering 2 shot or that frontal shot. Talk about that, if you wouldn't mind, about how you have capitalized on those scenarios, and that, if you've practiced, you shouldn't be scared of taking those types of shots to be successful in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point.
He shows up to a gunfight with a gun. I would say that's one part of it, because you, Stephen and I, in talking, you talk about the caliber that you choose to hunt out west.
Yeah.
You know what it will do, and you've had to use that in your favor on shots that may not have been doable in a smaller caliber. Or
I think there's a combination of things going on there, and we talked about this just briefly on one of the other podcasts, but I'll mention it again because I think it is worth mentioning. Rick's right. You have to practice. And actually hunting and shooting stuff, that's practice too. It gives you experience. But very rarely are the shots the right shots. I mean, they just very rarely work out to be that way, that you are going to have to take, if you're going to kill, if you're going to get bloody, you're going to have to take ugly shots sometimes. And there are things to consider, right? I mean, number one, have you shot enough in your life to take the shot, to believe that you can thread that needle through the bushes and the trees and the limbs and hit some vitals, number one. Number two, do you have a heavy enough caliber that you can push your way through trees and limbs and bushes and hit some vitals? And I choose a 3.75 for big game. Is it necessary for whitetail? No, it's absolutely not necessary for whitetail. Okay, but I shoot it for whitetail anyway. I mean, I don't like to chase animals. I don't like to think about shooting an animal and letting it run off. I mean, number one, I don't want to chase an animal. Number two, they're not as good when they have run half a mile. And so anyway, it's not necessary. I'm not advocating a 3.75 for whitetail English. I'm not doing that.
Right, I know that.
That's just, that's me. That's my personal preference. I like the gun. I like to shoot the gun. But the gun will kill anything on earth, right? I mean, it literally will kill anything that walks on earth. It'll kill an elephant. It'll certainly kill an elk. It'll kill a moose. It'll kill a caribou. It will kill any big game species, including a grizzly bear, in North America. And so it's a great all-around caliber. I like it. And it shoots farther than most people think it does. I've shot, how far was my elk shot, Rick? 100? Anyway, it'll shoot out to 200 yards. And, I mean, if you're shooting 1,000 yards, it's not the rifle for you, but I don't like you anyway if you're shooting elk at 1,000 yards, right? So I don't really want to hang with you because that's shooting and that's not elk hunting, which is a totally separate story. But shooting at animals is sometimes an ugly process. And I've always, had a saying. I've told Rick this 1,000 times. I've told Geesey this 1,000 times. I'm shooting to break down, right? I aim for the front shoulder. I don't aim behind the shoulder. I don't aim for the heart. I don't aim for the high lung. I aim for a high shoulder. I want that animal to drop in its tracks. I don't, and if it's not dead, I'm going to put a follow-up shot, but I want to break it down. And that's not pretty, right? I mean, that's not the pretty side of hunting, but that's the truthful side of hunting. I'm being honest with you. I'm being honest with myself and honest with the animal. I want to break it down because I want to recover it. There's definitely nothing pretty about wounding an elk and him, traveling a mile away and dying somewhere where you're not going to find it, or getting eaten by coyotes while it's still alive, which has happened. I mean, there is nothing pretty about that. If you've ever been to Africa, animals don't last long if you wound them.
Right.
And they run. They just don't last long. And there is nothing pretty about having your guts ripped out while you're still alive. So if you love the animals, you owe it to them to kill them, to break them down. And that's why I choose big caliber. The shots, as Rick said, they're not always pretty, but you got to take them. Otherwise, you're not hunting, right? I mean, you're certainly not killing. And new hunters very rarely, I mean, I think we talked about this on the podcast before. I took a newish hunter to Colorado. I'm not going to call his name. I guided him on top of a mountain, and we had a tough week and hadn't seen a whole lot of elk, and they weren't talking. And elk hunting, when they're not bugling, is like turkey hunting when they're not gobbling. It's just hard, they're around somewhere, but they're not talking at all, and so you're just sort of walking and bumping into them. And so it's tough. And so we weren't seeing anything. We weren't hearing anything. And then here comes the last night, and I heard a little puny bugle. And here come 2 cows and two bulls into a sagebrush flat. And both the bulls were shooters. One of them was a beautiful younger bull, but perfectly symmetrical, 320-ish on size, perfectly symmetrical 6x6. Anybody would have shot him all day long. Just a little bit thin because he was still young. The second bull was a bomber, like an absolute bomber, almost that size behind you there, Inglis. I mean, 350 easy. Could have been 360. I mean, heavy horned, 6x6, had all the right stuff, giant eye guards, giant brows, giant twos. I mean, it was just a beautiful elk. And he was 70 yards away. It was just getting a little dark, just a little dark. I could see him perfectly with my eyes, but just a little dark. And this guy had iron sights and a muzzle loader, and he refused to pull the trigger. Just, I can't see him that well. It's not a great shot. And I just about took the gun away from him and shot it.
Shot it.
Because it was such a massive bull standing 70 yards broadside in a sagebrush flat, chasing a couple cows around. I mean, it was just like the most frustrating situation you could be in, to have taken this guy, walked your ass off for a week, got to the top of this mountain. Here's this giant bull elk that very few people in the world will ever shoot one that big, and he ain't going to pull the trigger because he's just not comfortable. And I don't blame that on him. I mean, like, I really don't. If you're not comfortable with a shot, good for you. Don't take it.
Don't take it. That's
right. Good for you. Don't take it.
I've done that a lot in deer hunting, but keep going. I'm sorry.
But for me, it was very, very frustrating. It's not like, it's not like you walk on the back 40 and you call a gobbler, to 20 yards and the guy doesn't shoot it. I mean, this is a production, right? This is a real production to camp up there, stay up there. I mean, you're walking 6, 8, 10 miles a day, 15 miles a day in some
hauling hundreds of pounds.
Yeah, and to watch the bull, and to watch the bull go away. Essentially, it got dark, and very frustrating. Which means two things to me. Number one, practice more. Right, the more you can practice, the more you can pull that trigger, the better you are. Shoot. I shot 1,000 rounds. What day was it, Amos?
Yesterday. No, Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, yesterday. No, 2 days ago. Yeah.
2 days ago, whatever that was. I shot 1,000 rounds. So, I mean, as many critters as I've shot over the years and stuff that I've shot, I mean, we own a range, so it's easy for me to get out to the range. But I shoot a lot. All right, not as much as I need to still, but I still shoot a lot. I mean, I shot 1,000 rounds 2 days ago. You got to get out. You got to shoot. And after you've shot a lot, you got to just start pulling the trigger. Like, you put the gun on the shoulder of the blank.
Yep.
Elk, mule deer, whitetail, antelope, moose, whatever it is. If you've put yourself in that position, pull the dag blame trigger. Right? If there's a bush in the way, pull the dag blame trigger and shoot through the bush.
So, real quick, I'll tell this story real quick. And I know we're, Rick, I'm sorry we're keeping you on the line for so long, brother. But, so real quick, I was into archery, got into archery back in 2013, 14. Got into it, had a helium all set up, Matthews helium set up. I mean, the best of the best. And I shot, and I shot, and I shot, and I shot. And when I say I shot every afternoon, that was my deal, in the yard, shooting a target, in the yard, shooting a target. I got to where I felt, then I would shoot 3D. I felt confident. I really did. No doubt that I felt like when I got the opportunity, I was going to absolutely take down whatever it was I was shooting. So I decided to pay a cameraman to come with me, paid a farmer for another blind. We set the blind up. We got all this area set up to hunt. And I was going to harvest a doe on camera. Listen, it was my first deer I was okay with a doe. So we set up, and we got set up in this location. And again, I'd paid this camera guy to come and all this other stuff. And we had two does come out. One was a really big doe, and for some reason, she would not come to the corn. And she would not get – I could have got a shot at her, but the camera guy could not film it. He literally could not see it. And we're texting back and forth. He was in the tree next to me. We're texting back and forth. He couldn't get it. So the other doe comes to the corn pile. She walks in from the backside. She eats with her head facing us. Every now and then she would lift her head up and look around. Then she would go back down. And I'm like, okay, she's going to leave and turn sideways to walk out, and I'll get a shot. Kept sitting there waiting. And sunlight started going away. I could still make her out really good. And honestly, I was on the phone texting with my cousin, Randall, who is down in Charleston, the Kiowa, really successful bow hunter. And I said, hey, have you ever shot a doe head on? And if so, where should I aim? And he was like, I've done it twice. I've killed a buck and a doe head on, and I shoot for their neck, the top of their neck. And he said, are you confident and feel like you can do it? Go for it. And so I texted Michael Broach, my cameraman, live or die, ride or die. That guy would go with me anywhere. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to try the shot. And lo and behold, waited. She looked her head back up. It was still getting dark. And I drew back. I knew it was 25 yards, put the pin on her, and aimed right here. And let go of it. and literally she turned, jumped a little pine that was down, and we watched her fall down 20 yards away. Mm-hmm. And that was it. She bled out right there. She didn't suffer. I mean, it was it. And I did have a complete windpipe cut right through her windpipe and everything. Mm-hmm. Is that an ethical shot, or should I mean, be honest?
All day long. All day long.
But I was confident.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, I hope it doesn't sound hypocritical. You've got to be confident in your shots, otherwise they suck. I mean, there's just not a great way to put that. If you're not confident in your shot is going to suffer, right? And when I say I hope I don't sound hypocritical, I hope that's the truth, because new hunters will say, well, how am I supposed to be confident in my shot if I haven't done it a lot? And I get that. That's true. But, you're out there to win.
That's it.
Right? I mean, you're out there to win. And so what I'm going to tell you is grab your balls and win.
Yep.
Right? And if you don't have balls, ladies, I apologize. But grab your balls and win. Pull the trigger and get it done, and you know what? You'll have a lot of confidence the next time.
You will. You're exactly right. Bite the bullet and go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I know it's kept me back from doing a lot of stuff in the last recent years due to knee injuries and shoulders injuries and everything else that I would love to do.
But you know what, Inglis? So one more thing, and I know we're running late, but one more thing. You learn a lot more from failures than you do from success.
That's where you should learn from.
That's where you learn them. Right? There's two ways. There's two ways for. What are you saying?
No, I'm just asking. Is Rick still on?
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, buddy. I'm sorry. All right, I was just making sure you were still there, dude.
Everything that Steven said, especially about you learn from failure, I'm 100% sure. I know that fact. So
yeah.
So what I was going to say, and then I'll wrap it up. There's two ways to learn. One is wisdom, and one is consequence. Right? Wisdom is something you get from other people, and you're reading and learning and watching, and that's the way. That's one way. And consequence is doing and failing. And then you live with the consequence, right? Those are two very different ways of learning, but equally valuable and important. And you can't get to either one of those without pulling the trigger in the hunting, in the hunting scenario. The only way you get to those is pulling the trigger, right? You're going to have either wisdom or you're going to have consequence. And if you win, if you pull the trigger and the animal dies, you've got wisdom. And you can pass that along. If you don't and the animal runs off, you've got failure and consequence. And you can pass that along. You can learn. You can do it better the next time. Yep. But you can't get either of those if you don't pull the trigger.
That's the truth. That is the truth, man. I tell you what, Rick, again, I think this is just training for when our buddy here leaves us to go defend our freedom and everything else and protect everybody. I think this is just training so that you know what to exactly do when you join me as the guest host.
Rick's going to be the co-host.
He's going to be the co-host. So when you're my guest guest co-host, I got a good group to pull from. By the way, I've got Steve Senior to pull from. Who he's looking forward to it.
He'll talk your ear off.
Yeah, I got you. I got Captain Jay Bache, Jason Burton, Fred Rourke, who has said that he would come in, and then a number of others. But we're going to have fun, and I know you don't have time for the rebuttal on Steven's stories from the elk hunt.
That's why I talk so much.
I know he didn't want you to get into that, but we will give you that opportunity. I promise you.
I got 8 months when he's deployed, right?
Exactly. Exactly, brother. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time in such short notice and joining us this afternoon. And it's been a great show. And honestly, y'all, if you go pick up Trilogy Outdoors Magazine or go, like Steven said, TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com, click on the December issue and go through there and find Rick's article. It's awesome. And don't forget that cover article, too.
Oh,
got a great cover article.
There was a good cover article on the mule deer.
Yeah, you hear that, Rick? He had to outdo you. Since you were in the magazine, he asked me personally if he could have the cover.
No, I didn't.
He did not. He did not. Actually, I'll give it to Miss Cindy, our beloved creator. She messaged me and said, I think Steven's article should definitely be covered. I was like, you got it. Go ahead. You're browning up for some brownie points, aren't you, girl? But no, the magazine's great this month. And thank you so much for, once again, contributing to it and for joining us here and for being a loyal listener, man. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great show. And quite frankly, I've learned a lot off of it. And that's what you're always continuing to learn. So I appreciate y'all doing all this.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you, brother. All right, folks. Well, listen, it's been a great show today, and we didn't even get to talk about speckled trout fishing. So next week, coming up.
Hey, we got to do trivia.
And we got to do trivia. I was thinking trivia the week after. Trivia the week of my birthday, Christmas, somewhere about 18th, 19th, 20th.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to mention is the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, so I've been busy the last 7 days. I've had to go weigh fish. And it's going to continue through the winter. I don't care. Call me. Everybody has my number. Once you get registered up for it, you can find my number. It's on the rule sheet. Get signed up and go out here and go catch fish. I was with Jay Bass today, who just took the lead for speckled trout. There's plenty of room to improve on it. But, again, you got to win a month. You got to win a month to be eligible for those trips, for all those grand prizes. So, get in, win a month. You get to come celebrate with us at Sarah J's in November next year. And your name will be in the hat. And, you know, if you're smart, you'll get your name in there multiple times. And you don't have to be in a boat.
Right.
You don't have to be in a boat.
You can do it from a pier.
You can do it from a pier. You can do it in a pond. You can do it in the neighborhood. Stephen, you can walk right over there and catch a big brim in your pond and win.
Right.
So just we need a picture of you with the fish when you catch it. And then you go to any of our weigh stations, which we have added one more. Real Fix Tackle out in Loris is going to be another weigh station for us, and I'm hoping to add another one this week. Let's hope we can get something down south involved because we do have some people that fish a lot down south. But, man, we've had a great week of weigh-ins. We've had catfish. We've had black drum. We've had sheep's head. We've had speckled trout weighed in. Still no crappie and still no brim. So, hey, get signed up and go after those.
Yeah, and we're going to have the fish per month on the website.
Yep, it's already on there. Well, it's not on there yet, but if it's not on there, go to our Facebook page. I've got it on there. And don't forget, Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo Facebook page has all that.
Right.
You saw that. It does have all that on there.
Okay.
This month, again, catfish, brim, and crappie are every month, freshwater, okay?
Right.
Saltwater this month, speckled trout, black drum, sheep's head, grouper, vermilion, and wahoo. That's your saltwater.
If the wind will quit blowing, I'd love to get out and catch me a grouper.
I know you want to go for grouper, and remember, it can't have a hole in the side of it except for the gaff shot. Remember that. All right, folks, and remember, I tell you what, well, no matter what, we got some great brands. Southern English Radio Show every Saturday morning on the Gator 107.9, and hopefully might be adding some new stations for that. And also Trilogy Outdoors Magazine. Go check it out on the website or pick it up at your outdoor store located near you. And, again, Trilogy Outdoors Podcast here. Click, like, subscribe, share it with all your friends. Who knows, we might touch a nerve with you or strike a great memory. But next week we'll be back, and hopefully we'll talk some speckled trout. We might do some trivia. Who knows what's going to happen next week. But no matter what, it's going to be fins, fur, and feathers right here on Trilogy Outdoors.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.